Evening, everyone. Welcome to Fitchburg Municipal Airport Commission meeting, Wednesday, the 19th of February, 2025. Members in attendance this evening, to my far left, Eric Takal, Paul Hathaway.
Good evening.
To my far right, Richie Liberatore, and myself, the chairman, Clayton Raymond. Also, Peter Kettle, airport manager, is here with us. And in the audience tonight, we have Danielle from FPA, Fitchburg Pilots Association, and Jackie, Witchy, wants to speak on the airport property. So, I'm sorry.
Joshua Klaus.
Okay. Thank you all for coming, appreciate it. Jackie Marks from Gale Associates is also here via Zoom, and she'll be speaking on behalf of Gale Associates. So before we get things rolling, I'm looking for approval for last month's meeting minutes, or motion and approval.
Motion to approve? Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Very good. Action items from previous minutes. I don't have.
They're covered in these.
They're covered on the old
Yes.
items, old business?
On the new business,
That's
yes.
fine. Very good. Correspondence to the commission. Do we have anything? I don't have anything.
I put no, but I just got this yesterday.
Yep.
And it's from our attorney. I asked them to look in to see what the situation is with culling the deer on the airport.
Yep.
To make sure that what we do is legal. And he actually came back. He apologized for being a little bit late, but he said, sorry for the delay in getting back to you. I just heard from the EPOs yesterday. Through conversations with EPOs and Division of Fish and Wildlife, I was referred to the USDA. I spoke with the regional manager for the USDA, who advised that his agency has a statewide permit for deer culling at airports. They do this activity at 80% of the airports in Massachusetts. So if we wish, they will come in with their licensed hunters, shoot the deer, and donate the deer to facilities that process meat for the needy. They take care of all the paperwork and permitting, and the airport and city does not have to do anything. Mr. Wilder is sending me the paperwork for my review. Once I get that, I will reach out to you to see if this is something that you would like to do. So when I get that document, I'll bring it to the next commission meeting, and you can vote on it to approve it, or disapprove, whatever the case may be. Okay?
I mean, I like nature just as much as the next guy, but we have to protect the plane, so I'm all for that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And that costs us nothing. And it's going to a needy cause as well, which is
Right.
good. So,
Well, very good. That's good to know.
They are a real threat. You don't think it is. They are until it happens.
Yeah.
I've seen some ugly pictures.
Item 2, Gale, review of ongoing work. We have Jackie Marks. Jackie, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep, we're ready.
Wonderful. Okay, so Peter was kind enough to print out copies of Gale's update. I believe each of you has a copy in front of you. Our update tonight isn't very robust, so I'll just keep it moving along. And any questions that you have, just feel free to stop me as we go. I think we talked about last month the environmental assessment and wildlife hazard assessment nearing completion. The final item we were waiting on was the authorization of the final payment from FAA, which was received on the 6th of February. So moving forward, this project will no longer appear on the update. Project complete. So thank you everyone for your input, your contributions along the way, and a good successful project there.
Great.
If there are no questions, I'll move on to page 2. Let's see, the design and permit for the main apron reconstruction. I know that that our engineering department is working on developing the plans, and so there's really no update at this point in time. Moving on to page 3, the wildlife fencing project. At the last commission meeting, I had presented the scope of work, Gale's scope of work for this project, and the commission so kindly approved that scope of work. At that time, it was also authorized that the IFE process could begin. So once the airport receives that independent fee estimate, I apologize for the acronym before, the independent fee estimate, that estimator basically takes a look at all of our contract tasks and assigns what they feel would be appropriate hours in which to complete those tasks, ultimately resulting in their fee. So they will provide that fee to Peter, and then following receipt of that fee, Gale will provide our fee so that Peter can compare the two. If those two fees are within 10%, really if Gale's fee is within 10% of the independent fee estimate, it's considered under FAA rules to be acceptable, and the airport can enter into a contract with Gale for that amount. The other scenario that might occur would be you'd be outside of the 10%, and then there would have to be some negotiations back and forth to ultimately arrive at that final price. Once that process is complete, we can move forward with getting the approval from the commission for that final fee, and then move into processing the grant application for the project. So any questions on the fencing project at this time? I don't have any actions required of the commission tonight.
No, I've got a comment, Jackie. I will follow up with the IFE people that I sent it to, because I've had no response yet. So I'll do that tomorrow, okay?
Okay, and if you need, Peter, if you need an alternate firm to use, feel free to reach out to me if you're not able to get a hold of the initial people.
All right, excellent, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. The only other item that is on the agenda for tonight is the Medstar legal case. So I know FAA authorized the city via MassDOT to enter the final payment request into the eDelphi system. So that portion of the project is considered to be closed out. However, the FAA did notify the airport that the $4,900 share for reimbursing the independent fee estimate was not available, or they would have to basically wait until those entitlement funds became available. MassDOT did agree to fund that portion of the project through an ASMP grant. So I know that Matt has been working with Peter to assist the airport in basically, pulling together that fee and, getting that MassDOT grant application pulled together, revising the FAA grant application and whatnot, and getting all the kind of paperwork stuff done in the background. So that's ongoing at this time. Peter, I don't know if you have anything that you need from us right now, or if you have anything to add and anything we're missing.
I signed the documents electronically, and they went to Rich, and I believe Rich has signed them today as well. So it's back in your court, I think.
Wonderful. Okay, great. I will let Matt know that he should check in with our admin assistant to make sure that that's that those signed documents are in.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. Anything else for Gale Associates tonight?
Looks good.
We're good. Very thorough. Thank you, Jeff.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. I'll hang on until executive session in case anything else comes up.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Item 3 would be new business, 2025, 2026 budget. Boy, a year goes by quick, doesn't it? Peter Kettle.
Yeah, well, you have them in front of you. If you could have a look, and if you've got any questions, one thing that I'd like to highlight straight away is that for the final monies for the 24 budget, it shows that we have a deficit of $54,000. But just to let you know that we purchased $67,000 worth of fuel just before the closing of that month. And basically that 67,000 is going to give us much more than the 54 that's there. So, you know, we're in a positive, not a negative. And I have a meeting on the 26th of this month to go over this budget that you'll see down the right-hand side, the last two, the 25 and the 26. And if you have a look down, you'll see that rents are still continuing to go up. When we get into 25, 26, we will have another $70,000 because of the 30 new T hangars that are being built, assuming that they commence and continue to go on May the 1st for the building. And if you keep on going down, you'll see that there's quite a lot in the expenses. When we get to the expenses, revenue's gone up as well, but just slightly on the fuel, because we're going to have new people coming into those airports. And it's very difficult to say how much fuel is going to be used because we don't know what the weather's going to be like. And our fuel sales are all dependent upon the weather. And to be quite honest, this last month has been terrible because of the weather. But hopefully we'll catch that up as we get into spring and move into summer. So if you look down on the actual expenditures, you'll see that the departmental head for 25 went up from 101 to 127. That's because I offered my time for 3 months to train another airport manager to do the job before I leave. And that's all that. It's in the budget. It was approved last year, but it's in again, just to let you know where that's come from. You'll also see that as you go down, and one thing I'd like to highlight is that just about every single piece of equipment that we have at the airport is over 20 years old. And they are starting to need repair. They're starting to need new gearboxes. Even the fuel trucks that we're renting and leasing from Titan need repairs. And unfortunately, that's on us because it's only the usability part of the truck that we have to pay for. So we pay rent per month and also for the servicing of those vehicles. So, and if you've got any questions going down, I'd be glad to help, glad to offer.
I just got a couple quick ones. So fuel, anticipating to be selling more fuel next year, but it's $35,000 less projection for fiscal year '25.
Right.
Is that because the price of fuel is down, or is there, what was the reasoning?
Well, I mean, we're still making a profit, as you see. If you look at the overall green line in the 25, we're making 12 grand profit. Basically, that's a projection based on the weather this last 5 weeks. A normal turnover for the fuel is something like $400,000. Sorry, $30,000 to $40,000 a month, and that's just the fuel out of the trucks.
Yeah.
So if we take that away, I mean, the self-serve's still being used because people have just started to get back and use the system now. So, you know, that's my best projection.
Plus, we have $60,000 worth of fuel already
Exactly.
on hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And I've got to order some new Jet A.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you could just give us a minute, Peter.
of course.
For us to go through this a little bit.
Peter, the snow removal, do we do all the lots to all of the tenants? Or are they responsible for their own parking lots?
No, for every single hangar that's owned by the airport, we clear within a yard of the doors. And it's up to them to clear, because that's in their rent that they pay. With respect to FACT, there's a private charge on clearing their space because it's owned by FACT. They lease the whole land.
Right.
And their snow clearing also includes weed control. So we're doing it in the summer and the spring.
Okay.
And the winter, so. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Is it possible to add a line item expense for a porta potty?
No. No.
On $40,000 worth of fuel sales per month?
You know, on that subject, we do provide public restrooms for a third of the week, every week. So why is it upon the airport monies to supply the porta potty for the other 2/3 of the week? The terminal is closed.
'Cause the airport's still open,
Yeah,
and you can still buy fuel. And there are people who are based there that are paying rent. Presumably, they don't only pay rent 1/3 of the week. They pay rent the whole week, right?
yeah, they do,
And so there's nowhere to use the bathroom after 5-ish.
yeah.
So I think I've heard every possible intellectual art around providing restrooms, and I think at this point, it will behoove someone to bring an ADA lawsuit against the airport to force our hand, because I just don't see any progress on this. And it's $200 a month on $40,000 worth a month of fuel sales?
Well, I think one of the former meetings, step up here for a second. Daniel Walton, Holden, Fitchburg Pilot Association President. I think it was agreed in one of the previous meetings, I don't have the minutes in front of me, that we'd come up with a split between FPA, FACT, and the city on paying for the porta potties. So the city would only be on the hook for a third of whatever the porta potties cost. I wasn't sure, are we jumping ahead on the agenda slightly? Because there's a line item for,
Sure.
Yeah, it is under old business still.
what's that? Sir?
It is under old business as well.
Right.
So,
I didn't know that we want to derail the budget discussion, but it clearly is a budget issue.
If I could just comment on that, Daniel, it was agreed that the FACT and the FPA would pay for it, and that's in the minutes. It was never agreed that the airport would pay for it.
It was agreed that it would be split 3 ways. It wasn't agreed what the split was, whether it was third or some other split.
Minutes doesn't reflect that.
I think there was discussion of it.
There was look, you guys are my boss. You tell me what you want to do,
I think we want a porta potty.
you know?
I make a motion that the airport provides a porta potty for after-hours use by pilots and tenants who are currently not served. It's $200 a month. I think we're arguing over pennies here.
We'll discuss it more when we get to the old business.
Sounds good.
We're talking $2,400 a year. Like I say, my gripe is, we already maintain 2 bathrooms for a third of the week. So why can't the other 2/3 come from somewhere else? I understand Paul's point. It's a matter of airport's open, there ought to be a place to go potty. We'll talk about it shortly. Item, any other questions on the budget?
I will report back to you on my meeting with the mayor and the HR director. Okay, on the budget,
When is
on the
that?
26th of this month.
At a city council meeting, or you go to the?
Oh, no,
mayor's
it's
office
a
first?
meeting with the auditor, the
Yeah.
accountant, the treasurer, the mayor, and myself.
Yeah,
And we go through this budget. And then it comes up at the city council meeting to approve it. So I'm happy with it, if you guys are happy with it. Bearing in mind that I won't be here after June, so you know? But I mean, it's a reasonable, well-planned, well-thought-out budget as far as I'm concerned.
Are there any potential unpleasant surprises as far as the airport equipment and its age? I know I talked to Terry about this, and you as well. And these are machines that cost, what, like $250,000, $300,000 in some cases?
For the trucks, I mean, just to get a truck, let's say what do they call it, the F-50 or whatever it is? What, F-350, 250?
Three-quarter ton.
Yeah, with
Pickup
the
truck.
plowing system on it,
Yeah.
with the radios, with the flashing beacons, you're up at, like you say,
200K.
yeah, $200,000.
I'm also thinking about the bigger snow removal and mowing equipment as well.
The mowing equipment, a John Deere tractor, that tractor's over 20 years old. A new tractor's going to cost $150,000 at that stage,
Yeah.
plus the mowing equipment on that. So you're in about the $200,000 for that as well. But the snow blower is going to be maybe $500,000.
Oh, that's my point. Yeah.
But it's still going, it's still working, and thank goodness the big bucket that we've got that Terry drives, the Alice Chalmers, surprisingly enough, that was actually produced in the UK, 8 miles from where I used to live.
Wow.
And that's got a stamp on it, Essendine. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, and it's still going strong. It's
I'm really surprised
It's a
it's
beast.
not broken down.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
It looks like you've got, you know, a 50% increase or so on the, you know, repair and maintenance of equipment, and then additional the following year that, at least for upkeep and
For the upkeep.
increase in costs
Yes.
because it's older, but there isn't anything specific,
Right.
as I say, for.
But remember, we do
Place
get a grant annually from the FAA, and we can actually accumulate that grant until we can buy something. But we can also get an ASMP grant. And as we move forward, the nation is advising everybody that we've got to go electric. So we may get some FAA grants to turn our equipment into electric equipment.
If only
So,
we had solar panels.
sorry?
I said, if only we had solar panels, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's not go down that road right now.
So there's no reserve fund in case of a catastrophic failure, that we would just have to rely on a grant, or?
Yes.
So you break an axle on the snowplow and they say it's beyond economic repair.
Nothing.
There would be no substitute.
No. No, if we broke a truck, we'd be down to 2. We broke 2 of the 3 trucks over the last 2 weeks because the ice underneath the snow was like bricks.
Brutal.
And we broke actual arms going through, spindles going through the actual location for going up and down. They just snapped.
Sure.
So we fixed those. We're back in operation again. And today, the airport is in fully operational condition.
Do we want to carve out from those grants a structured modernization of the fleet at the airport, looking ahead? They're 20 years old now, but in a
They
blink
are.
of an eye, they'll be 30 years old.
Yeah, they will.
And then things will only be twice as expensive.
I think there was a plan for the spending on trucks that disappeared, right? Was it for the ramp?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But, yeah, it would behoove us to plan ahead. I mean, even anybody that runs a business and got 5 or 6 trucks, they don't want to buy 5 or 6 new ones all in the same year. It'll sink them.
Yeah.
So, one at a time, and it's inevitable, no matter which one you keep replace, the other one will break, but.
So if there was a budgetary carve-out to identify, for instance, one specific piece of equipment that was long pole in the tent, if that broke, things would get really difficult.
Yeah,
Whether it was the grounds maintenance or it was plowing. Maybe identify how we systematically save our pennies to do that.
yeah.
What I will do, I will get in touch with the FAA and Medstar and ask them if there are any grants towards equipment on the
Yeah.
airport and see what they come up with.
What do they do with their really nice fancy machines when they modernize theirs? Do they donate them or?
They get pushed out to other airports.
Yeah,
They
I
do.
bet you there's some of the
They do.
bigger airports, when they upgrade, we might be able to Hat in hand, go.
I think it's time to put our hand up.
No, it is, but you
Yeah.
know, with the way things are, I think they will be thrown into the dump and they will get issued with new electric ones.
Well, we'll take
That's what I'm seeing,
Take the
but,
diesel,
yeah,
yeah.
no, I'll ask the
Yeah,
question.
it's worth it.
Okay? I'll ask the question.
You never
I mean,
know.
it's a fragile budget. You know, we're toying with $2,400 for porta potties. It'll be really toying with $250,000 for a plow. That's just an extra zero, but. Okay. Yeah, Peter, I think,
So this is subject to approval once you've had your meeting on the 26th, right? And then we would vote on it?
Yes.
Great.
Do we approve it and then the?
No, I just wanted to show
Just
you
the
it
city
to see
council.
what there is.
yeah.
And if you've got any comments prior to then, just let me know. But remember, it's got to be a balanced budget. We can't just say we want this and not do something else. So,
Okay. Do you want me at that meeting?
no. No, it's not necessary. I mean, you're welcome to come along.
I'll take a hard pass on that.
When is that meeting?
The 26th. I think it's the 26th. I'll have to check, but I'm sure it's the 26th.
Okay, we're going to move off the budget. Thank you, Peter, for doing that. New business, Rockin Enterprises LLC, box hangar. So this is different than the T hangar.
It is. If you look at the sheet with number 2 on it, on the front, you'll see the location of the hangar. There's a box hangar going in there. It's 60 by 60, so 3,600 square feet. It's actually placed behind building number 2, and it uses the same taxiway that goes through to Twin City Air Motive, which is building number 7. And the blue area is the building, and the greyish area is the ramp joining up to it. And this is being, at the moment, it's been suggested that a private person is willing to invest in this. The position that it's in has access to sewage, water, gas, and electricity. He's very interested in it. He has houses in Florida and California, and he has planes, and, you know, he's got a TBM that will come to the airport. I just wanted to show you before I go through to the FAA and ask them on what the situation is in that area. Because bear in mind, you see all the trees down there, that's all wetland. And you've got to be at least 100 feet from that wetland before you can put a building in. And you can see building 1 is right on the edge of the wetland. And that was built before all the laws came in. So we're in a good position. It's not taking anything away from the 12 or the 20 acres that the Rockin Enterprise buildings are going on at the moment. And I like it. And if you look behind there, you'll see the design of the hangar. It's a nice hangar. It's a box hangar. It's got an eaved roof, and all the specifications, so all the dimensions are on those 2 sheets.
Is this separate from the Rockin' Horse,
This is separate from the 30, yes.
but it's all still part of Rockin' Horse
Enterprise, yeah.
Enterprise? Okay.
Yeah. This guy actually put in for one of the larger T hangars that has the space for the building on the side, you know, the workshop on the side, where we actually took away the partition. And he said, I'd really like something bigger. And Bob said, okay, I can build you a box hangar if you like. And that's where that emanated from, and the guy's really eager to get it done.
Okay.
So I just wanted your approval to go ahead with it before I get in touch with the FAA and Medstar, and
I got a couple questions. Is this intended for reciprocating or turbine?
it's going to be a TBM,
It is.
yes.
And how is the ramp condition from the main ramp to at least where the hangar is located?
It's good.
It is?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's no worse than the unnamed taxiway.
Actually, it's a lot better than the unnamed taxiway, Paul.
The taxi which dare
You know?
not have no name.
Right.
What's the rent per,
Square
for that
foot,
footprint?
50%, 50 cents per square foot, the same as the others.
So it's 12, is it 1,200 square feet?
It's 3,600 square feet, so it's 1,800 a year, so it's $150 a month.
That's good.
But he's paying for that hangar.
The width of that ramp, is it up to today's standards, or is it narrower?
No, it's narrower, but a TBM will get down there all right.
Yeah,
Oh, Paul knows that.
Yeah, it's no bigger. It's
Yeah.
32 feet
Yeah.
requirement.
yeah.
And somebody already has their name on this.
Yes. His name's Kraus, Mr. Kraus.
Peter, this building back here, I think it's building 6, or is it 8, the one that's
6,
6? That's the one that has issues.
it does.
If we took that down because it already has an existing footprint there, are we grandfathered to build another structure there, or is once we take it down, we lose that spot?
We lose that spot.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Unless we get permission from the Environmental Commission to do it, because it's within the 100-foot. So
Is that wetlands because of the water runoff from the street, or is it wetlands because it's actually
there's a little slough runs down the back there.
slough?
A little ravine, I can't, what do you call, you
Tributary.
you know what a slough is?
Stream.
No, sorry, I'm using my southern
vernal
Rhodesian
pool.
here now, slough.
All right, we'll put some signs up.
It's not impossible to get exemptions from the EPA
No, it's
setbacks,
not.
particularly on a pad that already exists,
Right.
and there's no harm, no foul, but it isn't easy. It's an awful lot of effort.
Yeah, there's just a lot of space that will never get developed in there. Even Twin City is close to the 100-foot.
It's almost like
Yeah.
if you moved, you took the building on the end and made it diagonal, like angled it
Yeah,
longer,
yeah.
and abutted it next to
Right.
box hangar 1.
Yeah, we could do that
Redid
next
it.
meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't there a potential proposal for someone to put hangars that they were going to move from, was it Nashua Airport, in overlapping that area?
From Manchester.
Or Manchester?
Yes.
Is that same area?
That's in that area. I spoke to Bill Weir. He was the person that actually asked if he could bring that, and I took him down there and showed him, because there is a water main area there with a hydrant on it, and to move the hydrant 24 feet forward is going to cost something like $8,500. And also, the main sewer runs underneath that, so you cannot build over it. So we're restricted in that, in any case, because the sewer runs down there underneath.
But not underneath this proposed one?
No,
Okay,
no, it's to the back of that.
okay.
So the city owns all the buildings that are on the main apron there?
Yes. Well, with the exception of the Life Flight one.
Ah, yes. So if you come to the right of Life Flight, if you were just to erase everything that was there today, and you kind of use the art of the possible, and what could you build there in terms of jet-capable FBO or something incredibly modern? Is there a chance that, given the age of the hangars on the end, or the 3 hangars on the main drag there that we own, that putting in this box hangar essentially landlocks that entire triangle for a long period of time? It's almost like you've got 3 buildings that we've done maintenance on, but those buildings are over 100 years old, right?
No,
How old are they?
the airport's not 100 years old yet.
I know, but they're like 80 years old, aren't they?
They're 93 years old.
So I was not off by
No, you're not.
You throw me a bone.
But I'm an engineer, you know? I'm an
They're
engineer.
not 100 years old. They're only 93 years old. So, I mean,
That's that British humor again.
yeah, exactly. Do we, so you got 3 93-year-old buildings.
No, 2.
Two.
The one on the end is something like 50.
Okay.
50.
So, but you get, I'm trying to make a point, though. You've got aging infrastructure, a potential to, if someone came in and said, okay, I'm Jet Aviation or I'm Signature, and I want to put a satellite FBO in for turboprops. and we want to take that entire area there from, that kind of triangle from Twin City all the way over to the end. I think putting a new box hangar in with what year term lease would that be?
That's going to be 2020-10.
So you're locking yourself into that outcome. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, I'm just saying it's another piece of the airport that is going to be committed to a purpose. And I wonder if that is the optimal, because the building to the north is the asbestos building, is that correct?
Yes. Building 6.
So that's not usable. I wonder if we're committing to an outcome where, you've got probably tens of thousands of square feet there that could be something else.
It would also mean moving the sewage line.
To Paul's point, if you end up with 4 to 6 or 8 or 12 new box hangars, some of them being 80 to 100 feet wide, would somebody be inclined to want to put a corporate FBO at Fitchburg? And if so, where would that be? Is there an alternative spot?
Yeah, there is.
And I think it's unlikely somebody's going to pay to remove those 2 buildings and put a new building up.
Right.
But,
No, I understand the
Yeah.
thought process, definitely, but bear in mind that if we go down Alpha to where 1-4 starts, that whole area there is for corporate jets. And also bear in mind that if you're getting into the bigger hangars, you need fire suppression, which is put in, that's why everything we've done so far has kept it below the 7,000 square feet. Every single one of them, to
Sure.
stop the fire suppression.
Yeah.
So, if we've got somebody that could come in there and we could charge them 50 cents a square foot and get that sort of money invested, there's one main big problem as far as I'm concerned. To get a corporate company to come in there, we would need a different electronic approach into the airport. And that's millions. And the FAA don't have those millions to give it to us. We've got the LPV, but is that sufficient? Would I get a contractor like Northeast Airlines that used to come into the airport before the invention of the electronic landing approach? You
Yeah,
know?
I don't think Fitchburg's ever going to get to a 200-foot decision height.
No.
Just based on terrain obstacles and the fact that we don't have an ILS.
Right.
I get it, but, if you were opening, for instance, I just look at Bedford Hanscom. It's at capacity. It is just a
Yeah.
zoo there. You just can't even get
Yeah.
out or in. And they're very close to us. And so as this volume of aircraft tries to find a home, Nashua's an obvious choice. That seems to consistently fail to launch for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But Fitchburg is potentially one place. If you got somebody that came in that just did King Air repairs, or just did restorations of twin Cessnas, they'd want a big facility, and that would be an ideal spot for it.
Well, we've got the space elsewhere.
So all I'm asking is, I think it's a great proposal. In the grand scheme of things, though, do you keep throwing box hangers everywhere and then discover later you've tied your hands? Particularly given the age of the buildings on the flight line. Is today's dollar worth more than tomorrow's dollar? It's one of the net present
Well,
value challenges.
we had 49 people for the 30 hangars,
Sure.
right? And we've only got 29 that have actually committed.
Yeah.
That's the situation we have at the moment.
Is the intent to tie into the water and sewer for this hangar?
Water, definitely. Definitely. And maybe gas.
Peter,
For heating.
the 293-year-old hangars, if we wanted to replace those, would we want to make them bigger, or would we keep that same footprint? Because you've got the hangar proposal behind one of the aging hangars.
Right.
Does that have to be there? Could it go down a little bit more to make available land if we want to replace?
We can't push it back because it's over the sewage.
So where it is,
That's the ultimate position.
that's,
Yeah, that's why it was fixed in there. You couldn't put it anywhere else
Yeah.
because of the sewage line.
do you know roughly what's the distance between the proposed hangar and the existing hangar?
What, this one here?
Yeah,
It's
the
20 feet.
20 feet?
Is that path sort of to the northeast of the blue box? Is that sort of roughly where the sewage line is?
Can you see, yeah, you see where the road sort of runs there, Paul?
Yeah.
That's where the sewage line is.
Yeah, it actually looks like it's, you can actually tell where it is.
Yeah, yeah,
That grass,
yeah,
the dull grass area?
yes, yes,
So I think that ties your hands in terms of use of that space. anyway.
yeah.
Now, what about between, is it building 1 and 2? It almost looks like you could fit another one of that size in between those.
You could if you can't use the land at the back. And we can't use the land at the back because that is it's not a force-fed sewage. It's not force-fed, it's gravity-fed. So to move it, there's really nowhere to put it. And that takes the sewage that comes from the road as well. It comes down all the way around here, all the way down to the sewage farm.
Oh, it does?
Oh, it
Yes.
does.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
so,
Okay. Peter did his homework, again,
I tried to.
yeah.
And the long-term plan for the asbestos building is,
Long-term what, Paul?
the long-term plan for the building with the asbestos construction?
To get a grant, it's on the CIP.
To get a grant to remove?
Yeah, to remove it, yeah.
And that's the one you said is number 6 there?
Yeah,
The
building
little-
6.
Little one that's kind of,
Yes,
Yeah, near
And
Twin
nothing can
City,
go-
just below Twin City
Yep.
Automotive.
And because it's on that water line, chances are, once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah.
and that's as Paul says, we could get agreement from the environmental people, to put something in. But because it's asbestos, they'd most probably want the base plate moved as well. So, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I don't know.
I just wonder what the city or the town or the airport, the airport could put there that is of some use. I mean, it's usable space. Whether it
Yeah.
becomes parking or aircraft parking or, I don't know.
You can't put the taxiway over the sewer line? Does that thing actually raised,
No, it's not raised,
you know?
no. At all times, you've got to have access to that sewage in case it breaks. If
Yeah.
the sewage line breaks and there's a building over it,
Yeah.
you've got to take the building down.
Right, right.
So,
Or road, yeah.
How old is the sewage line?
it's most probably clay
93, not
pipe.
100.
It's most probably clay pipe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, don't know.
All right.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, you could always, in the grand scheme of things, take out the older buildings and replace them with one longer, newer building, at least 2 of them.
Yeah,
So you're not terribly hamstrung, I think, to Peter's point.
yeah.
The presence of the sewage line and the wetlands over-constrains the issue. If it was just a tabula rasa, you could do something creative there, but I think there's too many constraints.
Yeah.
Just too bad.
Yep.
what is the number, so the life flight is the one that's over there with the delimiter around it. The one next to it, is that number 3 then, or how do you,
That's 3.
okay. And number 2 and number 3 then are the old ones? Okay.
If you remember at the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before, I gave you a photograph with every single one identified and what they were.
Okay.
So all the numbers are on and
Are
everything.
they, okay, okay.
Yes.
I didn't bring that.
Yeah.
You didn't memorize that, Eric?
No,
There'll be a test later.
Yeah,
sorry.
well, next week.
It's open book, you'll be okay. All right.
Do you want a motion to move forward with this proposal.
Does it need a motion? Just a yes? I mean, does it have to be a motion? I don't know.
I think it's material to the development of the airport and
So we'll need a motion.
make some decisions that we
Yes,
can't
please.
back out of quickly.
Yeah.
So I'd make a motion
Yeah.
to approve
Please.
construction of the box hangar 1 as shown on the diagram provided by Peter.
And I would second that. Could we have a vote, please?
Aye.
Okay. It's going to be warmer next week, too, so you can get started on it.
Good luck with that.
Hopefully we can get all the ice out of the airport.
It's horrendous.
Jeez.
Old business. We have, from last month's, Gerald P. Lombard, new name for the airport, presented by Jeff Bean last month. Do you have anything to say on that, Peter?
I do.
Okay.
Would you like me to say it before Jackie speaks, or?
Yes. Just a minute, Jack.
Under new development, Mr. Bean has requested that we delay this for 2 months whilst he does some further investigation because of comments that he got back. And I said I would bring that up, and I said I don't see any reason why we can't delay it for 2 months and take it from there.
Fair enough. I mean, I Googled this gentleman as well. And, you know, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, but it wasn't all roses.
No.
So, yeah, I would, I think it's fair enough to leave it on the table for two more months. We will do so. Any other comment?
I'm fine with that.
Jackie, knock yourself out.
So I wanted you to vote no on this when it does come up for a vote. Last time the Connerys were here, they don't even live in Fitchburg. They decided to move away, so I don't know why they think they should have a say in what things are named after. I'm very tired of everything in the city being named after older dead men, from the schools to the airport, the city and its bridges, to the housing authority, to FATV. But I didn't want to criticize without offering an alternative, so I thought maybe we could name this after someone who represents marginalized women abused by men in power, women who are too often forgotten. People don't need to be famous locally or otherwise to be honored. Think of the statue of the unknown soldier. We could name the runway or the airport after Pippin Row.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We're going to go to item old business.
So just to be clear, I'm going to leave that on the agenda for the next 2 months, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're not going to address it
No.
next month, but we'll leave it there.
Right.
Yep. Item B, FPA land lease agreement. Daniel is here. Do you want to speak on that?
I don't know that I have anything for Daniel Walton, Holden, President of Fitchburg Palace Association.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have anything new to say. You know, we signed, plus the letter I sent the commission. We effectively all signed a lease about 10 years ago. And yes, the conditions that lease were signed, what were the common leasing conditions at the time and what they are now have changed. But it doesn't change the fact it's a legal contract between the city and Fitchburg Palace Association. So we're content with our lease. We don't particularly want to change it. And we certainly haven't been, you know, I recognize the ask about whether we can pay for, you know, certain other parcels. But, you know, nothing's been offered of equivalent value in return for this change. And if we look over the cost of the cost of those changes to us over the remainder of the lease, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's like many, many tens of thousands of dollars. So it would put us at a, you know, huge financial disadvantage as a charitable organization. It doesn't have a huge impact, you know, year one, but by the time you go out 40 years, the remainder of the lease, it would be very difficult for us to pay for that.
Thank you. I'm going to comment on land lease and buildings, okay? What has happened in the past is people have gotten away with leasing a parcel of land just big enough to put their hangar on. And then, you know, you park a motorcycle next to it, you park a camper next to it, you park airplanes in front of it, you have a ramp space in front of your hangar, you have walkways going to your hangar, and all that is on public land, if you will. So it's boiling down to, we're not getting paid for the land that's being used.
Right.
We're only getting paid for the land that has a building over it. And I know the difficulties of changing a lease that's been in position for, whether it's a month or 10 years.
Right, right.
It's very difficult. But that's where we're all coming from here. It's, you know, there's no buffer, that people are not paying for 10 feet around the hangars. They're not paying for the leased, the ramp going from the front of their building to the taxiway, and it's gonna stop. It's this blue hangar here, I'm gonna keep an eye on it, and we need to get paid for the black space and the blue space, and whatever cars, parking area, and/or tie-downs that this gentleman thinks he's going to use, we need to get reimbursed. I don't see an easy way to fix the FPA lease as it stands. It does seem to be 10% larger than the building itself,
Correct.
which is what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of space. I understand that particular building adjoins the public parking, and, you know, there's a lot of benefits of being in that spot.
Yeah.
Benefits to the FPA, but not really a benefit to us,
Certainly.
so.
I mean, one thing that
Commissioners
happened,
want to comment, or?
I mean, if we look at what happened with the land lease for FACT, and I can't speak for FACT, Mark's not here, but while the airport wanted some changes to the FACT lease, they offered something in, you know, like some quid pro quo for a change in the lease. You know, we're open for that conversation. But, you know, it's very clearly laid out in the land lease, the legal document. This is what we're paying for. These are the terms and conditions. And while the airport has changed the terms and conditions of subsequent leases, it doesn't change the fact that, you know, there's a lawful contract in place.
Correct.
We like to think that we added the value to the airport. We drag the community down here, you know, things that are beyond
Yeah,
you know, our selfish use of the land.
Yep.
And that's something we obviously are going to continue to do in the years to come. That's a big part of who we are. But, you know, otherwise you know, like I said, we're content with the lease as it is. And if you'd like some other change, can you offer something, or enter a conversation where we can negotiate about, you know, you would like this from us, and we're willing to, and you're willing to give us something in return for that change.
How about a public bathroom?
So, again, I don't want to speak, and be careful what I say here in a public forum, but one of the concerns, you know, we do have water, and I believe we have sewer available to our hangar. It was built with that intent. But as you know, how we are zoned right now, that's something we don't want to risk changing. So if we were to have, you know, a bathroom inside the building, does that change the zoning that would apply to our hangar? And would that change other things as well? Because it's not considered a habitable space. So if it suddenly
We
became
can look into
habitable.
that.
Sorry?
We can look into that. I don't know those laws.
Right.
Yeah.
It was, I believe, not contentious, but it was an item of discussion when the hangar was being built and all the
Yeah.
negotiations happened. That all predates me, and that was then. And
But
it's now
but there's
2025.
plenty of other hangars on the field that have a bathroom attached to them that aren't considered residential, or they're just airport commercial, industrial, right?
Right, but we have groups of people coming in and things like that, so I don't know, again, if that would change any of the categorization or something.
I think there's ways to navigate that. I have to believe.
There's a carve-out in the lease for an 8x8 section to put a porta potty. I don't know if it's, I don't remember if it's specifically a porta potty, but 8 foot by 8 foot, you're quite limited on what you can do.
Yeah.
And certainly putting a bathroom inside, you know, that's other than being very expensive. You know, I think it was estimated when it was looked at in the past it would be $20,000 or $30,000, which, you know, that's an awful lot of money for a bathroom that might get used a handful of times
Yeah.
per month.
Yes, things have gone up.
No kidding. So, anyway.
Rich?
Though we discussed at previous meeting, we were more concerned about the taxiway, the apron in front of the hangar.
Yeah.
I think we understood in the back, we did the landscaping.
Right.
For
Yeah,
me,
so in the different
that was
parcels-
acceptable.
Yeah, so the different parcels around.
The walkway,
was
it
about
would have been a
50
muddy
otherwise, Yeah,
tromp, that's acceptable.
yeah.
Your members, do they park in the parking lot closest to the building, or do they park on that grassy area that's more on your right side, looking at your hangar?
So
I mean, left side.
In the past, people had a habit of parking on the grass. I mean, generally, people would park in the parking lot, but there was a bunch of people that would park on the grass. I've asked people not to park on the grass.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to trash the grass. We have a parking lot that's, you know, a handful of feet further to walk.
You're very close to it, that's why I would assume that they would use that versus, and you have explained to them that, yeah, this is
And
really
certainly
not our spot.
You know, the FPA as a whole has made it very clear to our members, including some of our board, don't
Right.
park there.
And again, for me, it's little stuff, but we had discussed the apron.
Yeah.
Are we going to move forward on that, or, again, we discussed the good
Yeah.
that your group brings to the airport?
Yeah,
I mean, we can't deny that, I mean, and that's huge.
yeah.
And we were going to overlook everything if you were going to go and help with a porta potty. And I thought that was the direction we were going.
That was certainly up for
It was mentioned,
Right.
you can't swap something like that.
No, but we still had the apron.
If you
Was
want
not-
to lease that apron space in front of their hangar, you have to change their lease. And they're not willing to change their lease. And,
Not in a unilateral sense.
correct,
Right,
right.
It
So
would be an addendum.
Daniel's telling us tonight that if maybe we could do something that would help them, maybe they'd be interested in talking about that.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I would add that the city and the airport commission entered into the lease with the FPA with eyes wide open, knowing what the purpose of the structure was, knowing what events would be held there, knowing that cars would need to be parked, knowing there'd be gatherings of people and airplanes. It's not a surprise or subterfuge here. So, you know, whether it's parking or the path of convenience from the parking lot or the, you know, where people sometimes put cars during events, I don't think we can cry mommy about that. We should have known if that was really a concern. That's
It's correct to say they're the most active
indeed
part of that, of the
They're
airport.
a great
a
asset,
great asset.
Yeah.
And they're a charity.
yeah.
So, you know, Daniel has offered now, as a gesture of good faith, I think if we really are so adamant we need to reclaim the revenue from that little apron space, he's willing probably to do an addendum possibly to the lease, not outright renegotiation of it, but at least consider some other moving parts.
Right, I mean, we are, like I said, we're content with the lease as it is, and if we wish to have, we're not particularly interested in the unilateral change that benefits you and not us, especially when the lease is lawful, there's nothing unlawful about the lease. Well, I guess that would be for a court to decide, not me. So if you do want us to pay for that parcel of land in front, let's equate a value to it, and let's figure out.
Well, Peter had done that math.
That's right. So no, we have the numbers.
So that was
I don't
in a
have it.
previous diagram. I don't know if you, Peter, do you still have that with you?
No.
Where you had that labeled and square footage and the value?
No, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, it's very
It was
clear.
like $80 or something per month, or not even, a year or something like that?
I don't remember. It was not a significant amount of
No, it
money at all.
Yeah, and it's not, I think that's another point. In the grand scheme of things, are we trying to swat a fly with a shotgun here? I mean, this is like, compared to some of the other issues, whether it's been Medstar or, other contentious leases, it seems we're going after the most compliant organization for so little money that it's like.
Well, I think
I
Peter and
understand that there's, our hands are tied in terms of equity and the way the FAA views these things, but, you've got airports all over the country giving away land for various municipal purposes. That happened here back in the day. There are far greater and more heinous acts that need to be called to justice than that $80 a year, whatever it is, so.
Okay.
But it would be good to come up with some action. I don't know if it benefits anybody for this to just drag on indefinitely.
No, I was going to suggest we could leave this on the agenda, and if the 4 of us, 5 of us can figure out something that benefits you, then that benefits us equally, maybe we can do that.
That could take many forms, right? That could be
Oh, yeah.
volunteer airport cleanup, that could be, I don't know. I mean, there's a million ways to
Right.
provide a value or perceived value.
Right.
So, I
Which
mean,
they already are, in effect.
yeah,
By bringing business, by bringing, having events.
well,
by
aviation awareness, yeah, exactly.
Being a nonprofit charity, I mean, are you a technically nonprofit?
Correct. We're
For
at 5 or
tax, whatever.
3 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So what I think the action might be for you to come up with 3 things that you think would be a good quid pro quo, and perhaps the commission does the same,
Yeah.
in order to resolve this in our lifetimes.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the desire to have all the leases on the airport as close to being identical as possible. I'm an engineer. I love everything to be very orderly and similar. So I can appreciate where you're coming from in this. But.
Again, it's more of a land usage aspect, right? If you were just a hangar with a single airplane in it, basically you park your car, pull your plane out of the hangar, put the car in the hangar, and away you go.
Right.
And you use no more, really don't use any more space than pulling the airplane out onto the ramp.
That's right.
And that's it, no parking, no
Yeah.
one coming around. Yours is a little different, and like Paul said, that FPA hangar was the first thing that happened at Fitchburg Airport in probably 20 years when it was built. So,
Yeah.
yeah, to cry wolf now is just late, but we have to be self-sustaining. And, we're one fuel tank fill-up away from losing money or making money.
Right.
And it's precarious because if you need a $250,000 plow truck, if you need a $500,000 snow blower, it's a scramble.
Paul said something very salient a number of meetings ago, which was, we undervalue the land at the airport tremendously. If you go and look at the cost of land in a, a lockup, a local storage
Mini
place.
storage.
Yeah. It's significantly more expensive and there's a lot more
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
And this is why, when I was based at Keene Airport, when they did an audit of the hangars, 2/3 of them had powerboats in them.
Why not?
Or Ed, the airport manager's like, why aren't we selling any under Lowland?
Yeah.
Because there was one gentleman living in his
still
hangar
need
in a
it.
camper. His wife had kicked him out. And he would, once a week, take the camper out of the hangar, go have the lav flushed, go to the Stop and Shop, come back and park next to his beloved boat. And he's been there for years.
I don't believe we
buy
have
any
something that
100 Lowland.
egregious as Fitchburg.
So it's a double-edged sword. I mean,
Yeah.
to Daniel's point, if you look at the cost of mini storage compared to what we lease land for square footage, it's,
Yeah.
and what does Hanscom charge per square foot?
Well, a hangar there, I was just at the airport not so long ago. A hangar space, to put a Cirrus in, I think was around somewhere between $3,500 and $4,800 a month,
Yeah.
per month.
Yeah, so,
And, I remind you that the city, out of their own pockets, have probably spent almost $1 million between the terminal building and the runway.
Right.
and the approaches, and the fuel
Yeah.
farm,
The approaches, the fuel farm,
Self-serve, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
self-serve, so,
snack machine.
Yeah.
it's, we're thankful that we're able to do that, but I'll tell you what, we better balance this budget.
Yeah.
So, Peter, you've been quiet, we kind of know your position, but
I work for you.
it's going to take a little bit of time, so.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
think it's a good idea. Let's see if we can come up with three carrots for each side.
It's not 3 sticks.
Yeah.
All characters.
Good seeing you, Dale.
Yeah, sorry I've been absent from it.
Yeah, no problem. You'll retire soon. RFP, non-aviation land lease restaurant.
Yeah, the situation on that is that we're actually advertising in the Sun and Fun magazine,
Oh, wow.
which has a readership of something like 72,000 people, which is good, and also in the Worcester Business Journal. So far, we've had 5 people that are interested in coming to look at the restaurant space, and as there were only 5, I had a discussion with Mary Delaney, the Chief Procurement Officer, and said, look, it's stupid to have a webinar for 5 people. Why don't we ask them if they would like to come down to the airport and sit in the room, and we could explain, her, myself, Mary Jo Bohart, or whatever, to them what we're trying to do. And she sent an email out yesterday, because the meeting was supposed to have been this morning. And 3 of them came back immediately. We'd love to do that. So I've got the first one, I think it is Thursday, which is tomorrow. And then there's one on Friday, and there's another one on Monday. And then the others are deciding when they'd like to come down. So it
Great.
looks like we're getting some activity.
Awesome.
And the people that have applied are actually in the business of restaurants,
Yeah,
which is good.
yeah,
So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get something out of this.
yeah.
And that's an update on the RFP for the non-aviation.
It'll be
plans.
interesting to hear their viewpoints, because they know their profit margins, they know the potential, and it'll be a learning
Yeah,
for us, Item D, terrain tower lights, that's in Leominster.
yes.
We're trying to get a estimate for removing the tower?
We are.
Okay.
And we asked the company that actually did a major part on the runway, a company called Kobo. And they actually do this, and they asked me a couple of questions during the week, and I said, look, I've got a commission meeting on Wednesday night. Could you please give me a quote? And that, yeah, definitely. I haven't got it. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
I'll have it for next month.
Yeah,
So apologies for the wait.
Is it a single pole, or is it actually one of those structural towers?
It's a big one going up.
concrete, right in the guy's property.
It's got a massive concrete floor on it, or base plate, and then it goes up. And you know the beacon that I've got inside?
Yes.
It's like that.
Oh, yeah, they're serious.
Yeah, so I told him, they said, you know, we'll just take everything and throw it away. I said, no, you
No,
won't.
put that
I
on
said,
eBay.
we want the beacon at the airport.
No, people buy those for
Yeah,
their man
so,
caves and
yeah,
stuff. They have incredible nostalgic value.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting the beacon back.
Peter, so the FAA did get back to us on that? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
I wasn't
wanted
aware of
us-
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't issue any grant money for the removal of obsolete navigation lighting?
Nope.
That's too bad. Worth asking.
Item E, 712. Minimum standards.
Everyone's fun topic.
I have gone through, highlighted, put notations, and I want to just hand this over to Paul. But I do want to talk about a couple items. So I can start first, if we're okay with that.
Sounds good.
It had to do with the definition on FBOs and requiring them to be selling fuel. There was a lot of requirements that just seem, they don't fit the airport. So it has to be either rewritten or some stuff just eliminated.
Page 20?
Is this the definitions, page 9? Or is it, because there's a definition of what they do on page 9, and then page 20 goes into the general requirements, which is more verbose.
It was page 20 and 21.
Okay.
So fueling equipment and FBO shall be required to comply with and/or provide the following: fuel dispensing equipment, adequate bonding wires, spill kit. I mean, that is boilerplate. However, we don't want to give the impression that an FBO is going to start selling fuel here. Well, they may, if we could profit by doing so.
And that is the intent, right?
Yeah.
So there are, the businesses at the airport currently fall into the definition of, specialized aeronautical service operators, right? So if you think of Twin City and you think of Nagel or anybody doing Part 1, Skyline doing Part 135, they're a SASO. So what we currently have is the city sells fuel, it's a municipal airport, and then we have a bunch of SASOs. We currently do not have any FBOs. So this would not apply to anybody currently on the field. The intent, however, though, because these being generically accepted definitions of what an FBO does, right? You land and there is a place where you can get fuel and go to the bathroom, and they have some basic maintenance services. It defines what those are, primarily to differentiate them from what they're not. So the businesses we have on the field, like Nagel and Twin City, are SASOs and, not subject to anywhere near the sort of requirements that an FBO is. And the reason for including this is, A, everybody does. B, by everybody I mean most airports. B, if the city ever decided to get out of the business of selling fuel, we would have this in place. There are many airports I go to that are municipal airports where there is an FBO that sells fuel as well as the city terminal sells fuel, because the volume of operations supports it. So, the goal being to sort of substantially conform with what other minimum standards in the United States were doing and future-proof our min standards so that we didn't have to keep cracking it open. That's the intent here.
I think maybe what Clayton's getting at is fueling equipment if applicable, right? Because they're not required to provide fueling equipment, but if they do, then they have to meet the requirements and so on. Or are you saying that?
Sure, but I mean, if they are an FBO as opposed to a SASO, what would they do other than sell fuel? Because if, it's like you're either fish, you're either fish or fowl, right? You're either a SASO or an FBO. We don't have any FBOs. So we got to define an FBO, essentially, the generally accepted definition is like basically a gas station for airplanes,
Okay.
is the way to think about it. And this intent here is to separate them from people that do not sell fuel, but provide other services, some of which may overlap, basic maintenance, parking of aircraft.
Right, so that definition on page 9 there actually is a standard definition and,
Very much so.
okay, okay.
Yeah, very much so. Trust me, there's very little original work in here. Yeah, I'm not, work harder, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that's passed. First of all, if you do a survey of all of the, the min standards you can find on Google, boy, there's not a lot of difference between them. And it's because I think probably somebody spent tens of thousands of dollars hiring a consultant to write them. The FAA reviewed it and liked what they saw, and then everybody kind of fell in trail. And I thought, take the path of least resistance, as this has been dragging on for some time.
Okay.
Again, but there's, I was talking to Mark and Daniel about this recently, and I said, so much of what's in here does not currently apply to activities at the airport, but could in the future, right? We've got box hangar development, we've got, other businesses wanting to come in, so it would behoove us to sort of future-proof it whilst keeping it simple. Go ahead, Rich, I'm sorry.
Other things are minor. Automobile parking, it says paved, shall be paved. Doesn't necessarily have to be paved.
Right. Which page is it? You're going to give me your highlighted version?
I'm going to give it, I'm going to give this to you.
Sweet. Yeah,
You
perfect.
can
Perfect.
update what, or explain
Yeah.
on next meeting, and give me back this so I can
Sure.
see what,
Yeah, if everybody,
what
if
was
people
flushed.
have email comments or they have paper comments, just
Yeah.
give them to me, I'll
Yeah.
incorporate them. And then a suggestion had been made to then possibly post this either on the city website or the airport website as like a notice of proposed min standards.
Yeah, we talked
There was some document review period, which I think would be a good move in terms of giving the current business owners at the airport the opportunity to review it and say, how do I fit into this? Does this impose new restrictions on me, and if so, which? Or is this sort of a snooze fest for me? Does this help my business? Actually, in some cases it may,
Yeah.
by providing a bit more structure as to who comes on the airport.
And then the other item, I have quite a few notes here, is aircraft, airframe, and power plant maintenance. The FBO shall be certified as an FAA repair station.
Which page are we on?
Item 22.
Thank you.
I don't believe you have to be a repair station to be an FBO.
So, let's go back here. So this is under the
A
section.
lot are.
Yes, this is under the section for FBOs, so that's a correct statement. Shall be, so that's a great comment. I think that should read may, could be maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I just put interesting topic, which we discussed a little bit earlier, is our airport is designed around a Type 2 aircraft, yet we really don't have the facilities at our airport for Type 2 aircraft. I mean, we can't really change that, but we should be aware that that space someday may happen.
Yeah, there is a definition of aircraft types supported, and I deleted most of them and only left 2 or 3. I think I'd left type 1, 2, and 3, so we need to delete 3, it sounds like.
Well, the list of all of them on page 7, I think, right? Is that the airplane design group?
Oh, good man, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. So I guess that is the definition of
Right.
all of them.
Yep.
But I'd have to look and see where we called out. I think it would be in our preamble here.
Yeah, Rich, what page was that?
Which subject?
The one you were
General
just talking about with
requirements.
the size of the aircraft.
I wasn't, I was just saying, item 5 on page 22 refers to an FBO, shall be a repair station, which we just clarified, doesn't
Yep.
have to be.
Okay. There it is, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then it talks about Group 2 turboprop. And I just wrote in my notes that, this is a good point, that we don't really have repair facilities for Type 2 aircraft. Now, we can't really change that, but I think today was a good conversation with the box hangar, and we should be aware that maybe someday, there could be a sizable hangar for repair of that size aircraft. I know today's world, it's like, well, if you go to Honda Jet, you go to the Honda store. If you go to Gulfstream, you go to the Gulfstream. You go to, now Beechcraft, you go to the Beechcraft. It's,
Yeah, yeah. Honda Jet certainly requires more than 5,000 feet, that's for sure. No,
so,
I think that you're right. I think we need to call out that we are specifically a Type 1 bordering on Type 2 airport. And I can scrub the document and go through and try to find references to that. It shouldn't,
well, we have a design airplane criteria. Peter, where's that written down? In the ALP?
Yeah.
Yeah,
AMP.
oh, wingtip
Airport Master Plan.
clearances,
AMP, yeah.
taxiway width.
So that's on the website, I believe, City Hall.
Well, you could just put a comment in the general requirements in that FBO
Exactly.
section, referring to that and saying, hey, even though these are standard definitions, our specific airport may not be able to support
Exactly.
all of that.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
No, I like that.
There is an appendix in the back, which I really didn't want to bring up tonight. It has to do with minimum insurance requirements. I know nothing about insurance, and I don't know that the commission wants to be in the business of telling people about insurance. However, 6, 9, 10 months ago, we did determine that a general liability insurance for all operators on the airport should be $1 million minimum. Now, I don't see I'm not sure what a specialized operator is.
So this was brought up by Mark, and I think it was an astute comment. So most of these definitions in the document are boilerplate, like, right, you're an FBO, you maintain engines or airframes, you are a charter air taxi, and everybody kind of gets that. But particularly at Fitchburg, there's some more esoteric aeronautical operators and operations, like, what if you're a parachute rigger? What if you're a banner tower? We've got a banner tower based at Fitchburg. Would trying to find $1 million policy for banner towing drive them out of business? And I think the thought was, if you don't obviously fall into any of the big categories, like you're renting out hangar space or maintaining airplanes or doing flight training, but you're one of these people that kind of are a bit odd, not odd, but not in the boilerplate definitions, that the commission could determine on a case-by-case basis what was appropriate, given the level of risk, right? So I don't think an air taxi turbine operator with a 10-seat business airplane, I think they incur more risks to the airport in terms of liability than somebody that just does sightseeing flights in a 1946 Cup. right? And I think the idea was to give us some wiggle room. The other idea is pulling this out of the body copy gives us the ability to update it as necessary. I think the previous min standards had references to insurance scattered throughout the document, but they're kind of embedded. I think it's better just to have something you can change when you need or update as you need.
Yep.
But I mean, the outside comments I'd received from Mark and Daniel were that there were the niche operators that needed some consideration here. How much risk is posed by a single seat banner towing airplane? If the plane's worth $25,000 and the banner's worth more than that, you know? So that was sort of the method to the madness there.
Yeah. I'm going to jump off that for a second. Independent operator, a AI or A&P that wants to come to the airport, work inside owner's hangar.
Yep.
What is that definition? Is he an independent or is he a SASO?
So let's dig through this. It's been a few weeks. So there's,
and I remind everybody, we cannot prevent them from coming onto the airport.
Indeed, and I think, I tried to think through scenarios when I was editing this, along the lines of, well, for instance, my airplane, there's nobody at Fitchburg that is really qualified to work on my plane. So obviously, if it was AOG, somebody would have, Columbia would have to come in and make it airworthy to ferry it. There are also people who, just for regular maintenance, the facilities we have on the field don't really, that's not their market focus. They're focused on Beechcraft, or they're focused on Civil Air Patrol or Cirrus aircraft. And so there are people that are sort of landlocked in terms of access to maintenance. And so there is, and what I did is I tried to carve out the right to bring someone in to perform services logically, because they're not offered at Fitchburg, particularly in the case of if you've got to get the plane ferried or it's an AOG situation. But it wasn't just going to be any random people coming and going. There had to be some structure to it. So there's a notification process for the airport manager, and there's a permitting process. I think that needs a bit more work.
That's this temporary SASO operator.
Yeah, I think that's, where did you find that?
Page 23.
Good man.
Page what?
23.
Yeah, here we
But
go.
it's not in the, it needs to be in the definitions as well.
I think that's right.
Yeah, because we previously had the term independent operator,
Yeah, we did.
which I don't think I saw that in here,
Yeah,
as that term
yeah.
specifically.
That's a great catch.
I thought of that driving down here today.
Yeah, I'll add that.
And if you would, I always thought that the Twin City was an FBO, and I thought Nagel was an FBO. And you're telling me
No.
they're not FBOs?
Well, you can tell.
What is what exactly would the distinction be?
So herein lies the rub, right? So they, by definition, they're not an FBO because they don't sell fuel. If you're going by the strictest definition here, they're specialized aeronautical service operators. So they provide maintenance services, but not fuel services. So they're just a SASO, but they're a permanent-based SASO. Now, it's very easy to make the assumption that they will service all types of aircraft, but aeronautical businesses don't tend to do that because of the cost of acquiring the technical support documentation and training and tooling, and being licensed by the OEM to actually purchase parts, or these places tend to fall within a specific airframe's area of specialty. So if you look at Nagel, they only really work on Beechcraft aircraft. They might in an emergency help you out, but they're not going to be terribly, they're not going to take your 172 in for an annual.
Yeah.
Similarly, Twin City, perhaps more flexible, but they're a Cirrus service center primarily.
Yeah.
They've made an awful lot of time and effort to attain that, and so that's where they're kind of focusing their business, other than the cap work that they do on 182s.
Yeah.
And you see this, all over the country. I used to have a Beechcraft, and it was serviced by somebody in Nashua that only worked on Beechcraft. Lancaster is a big, PA is a big service center. So that these min standards from the 40s and 50s and 60s, where you could fly basically into any service center and they would look after your Piper Aztec or your Cessna 172, are extinct. It is non-viable anymore. It's almost like you have to find the OEM-specific, absent some basic piston airplane technology that most A&Ps can fix. They tend now to focus on a specific OEM or brand, because the era of the independent A&P has sort of gone away. With liability, I mean, we used to have Mr. Liebfried on the field, and he would work on everything, and then Jeff, after him,
Yeah.
would work just about on anything, but you look at the liability of operating in that kind of business as a sole proprietor, it's prohibitive. One mistake and you're
Yeah, it's
done.
all over.
It's all over.
Yeah.
So you gotta have a parent corporation shielding you, and as a necessity, unfortunately, they tend to fall in line with a specific brand.
Right.
Think of it, I mean, as opposed to having the shop manuals, which cost thousands per year for revision services, and you're legally required to have them. So the repair manual for certain aircraft, I'm lucky that my airplane, their philosophy is that all technical documentation is free and public, which is a breath of fresh air. But for instance, Cessna and Piper and others, it's not. So you have to subscribe to revision service. So if the FAA came in and said, you're working on this Piper PA-34, show me the page in the book that references the technical, as opposed to just the AC 4313, which is the general standards. And so there's tremendous expense, without belaboring this. So one of the things I think we should think about, and it was in the kind of the process of looking at new applicants, was favoring those that were willing to provide repair and maintenance services to a broader spectrum of owners. So, Peter's Airplane, or, you probably know 20, 30 people that have airplanes that, Nagel and Twin City, through no fault of their own, wouldn't be excited to work on from an annual perspective. So trying to attract the kind of place that would do that. And then failing that, always have the ability for an owner to bring somebody in to get the airplane to the point where it could be ferried out to be maintained. Otherwise, you're just making people break the law.
Actually, just if you don't mind adding, I think by building a whole bunch of new hangars, between Nagel and Twin City, those guys are maxed out. It's going to only get worse. And unless we can get another service centre at the field, we'll just have to accept people coming on the field to do work. Even now, they won't service Mooney. So I know Mark has had problems trying to find people to work on his plane. So he's kind of left, if the plane's flyable, he flies it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing pretty horrific stories about waiting periods to get annuals. I know that where I take my plane for annual, they've actually had to tell owners, like, I know you've been having your plane annualed here for 10 years, but we can't do it this year. That's like devastating. You know how hard it is to find a good maintenance shop?
Right.
That's why I always buy them lunch every time I go down here, but it's like, it's,
Lunch only goes so far.
but the number of talented, mechanics, that pool has shrunk, and the ones that are really good are getting hoovered up by the airlines, and they're working at Logan or, Manchester and making really good money. So,
Okay, so clear enough, FBO, Sasso,
yeah,
FBO that I remember back in the 1980s is not the same anymore.
things have changed, and I think that
DC-3 one day, and then 172 the next.
P-51.
I mean, that's the way it was.
P-51 Mustang on floats.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Somebody would come in with a Citation jet. So I kind of like what other people did, and I shamelessly borrowed again, that an FBO is an FBO, and everybody else is defined as a specific or specialized SASO.
All right, well, let's see if we can get this to an agreeable presentation where we can ask the FAA to at least review it. They
And get
said they-
public comment too. I think,
Yeah.
our constituents at the airport, I know FPA and FACT had some comments that I have not quite dug through yet around definitions of permits and licenses, which we need to look at.
Yeah.
And that's another discussion we should have.
Yeah.
Philosophy around permits and licenses.
Yeah. And then, to the point of, I'm going to go back to it. Maybe I'm just wasting my breath. But, $14 million runway and $6 million terminal building, yet somebody comes in here with a minivan and a toolbox and makes $3,000 repairing something, and the city gets nothing for it. That's a rub. I don't like it.
It's a fair argument.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a framework within here. There's two scenarios. There's one that somebody routinely does that as a source of revenue. And then there's the situation where someone's, oh my goodness, I was going on vacation, but I can't, my plane's broken. What do I do? And so the form would require an application, and there's even an application at the rear here for, I want to be a SASO, a non-based SASO. Here's my bona fides, and here's my insurance. And they would essentially get a badge and pay some nominal permit fee, which we would need to determine. And I think that's a way to recover revenue.
Okay.
The emergency basis is a difference.
Yeah.
Then you're really trying to control events that evolve very quickly. And
Right.
Okay, I have a couple of additional.
Yeah, good, please.
Yeah, in that same section there, about section 5, like under aircraft charter and air taxi operator,
What page is that?
24.
24, perfect.
it has the definition, but then says, shall comply with the following minimum standards set forth in this section 5, but then there's nothing additional in here.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if there was intended to be, or there's some other general,
So hang on, the aircraft and commuter media, aircraft are providing non-scheduled service, not based, exempt from these minimum standards. So if you're not based, it doesn't apply. Section 3.
What page?
Minimum standards set
24.
forth in this section 5. So I think
It's
what
in section
that's saying is,
oh, is it just the sections up front?
yeah, so it's referring to, section 3 applies to everybody, but then if you were an air charter, air taxi, so for instance, in section 5 on page 23, you
Okay.
can't store or dispense fuel.
Okay, there's nothing else specific to that.
No.
Some of the other ones are very.
It's just saying that, like, the
Okay.
stuff that's in
I got it. Okay.
section 5 does apply to you.
Okay. I was going to say the same thing about the.
I know it feels like a dangling participle, but it's not.
That was all I had, other than a couple of not typos, but just nits. So I'll
Yeah,
send-
it's a
send those.
difficult one to format. Thank you, just somebody, I'll take it.
Rich, did you forward your comments to Paul already? Okay.
Those were emailed or?
Anything to add?
No, the only thing I did get confused, and it wasn't until I read through the whole document, and then you already talked about it, we did discuss that $1 million liability was supposed to be the minimum of what we were asking the repair operators to have. And I thought that would have been spelled out directly, but Paul had put it into the back with all the insurances.
Yeah, so we
I didn't, I thought maybe that should have been spelled out a little bit more clearly, and like I said, we don't really turn our energy into other insurances other than just that liability insurance for the 1 million. And we had, months ago, we had bounced back and forth on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be as reasonable for all parties concerned here. I mean, if you go through other airports,
Yeah.
they have a separate category for vehicle insurance. So any vehicle operated on the airport requires a separate policy and/or training and permits, and the list goes on. And I don't think one of the struggles is, do you future-proof it, or do you trying to change the character of the airport? Because the airport is what it is. And I want to think one of the appeals to both based owners is that you can have a vehicle on the ramp, and it's the honor system, right? And, you know, we're not chasing people looking at their insurance policies, so. As the character of the airport changes potentially in the future, and you have a big FBO with Gulfstreams, if that ever happened, who knows?
Well, that's the problem. You know, you have an $85 million airplane parked next to a $300,000 plane.
Or worse, it's the.
Or
this is a
$20,000 car.
True story. When I was at Teterboro Airport, I think it was the Revlon family flew in their G4, and they had a very enthusiastic limo operator who wanted to be right there as they came down the steps, and didn't put the limo in park. And the limo went straight into the side of the Gulfstream. And it was about $2 to 3 million in repairs and 6 months downtime. Because it not only damaged the stair, but it cocked the airframe, where the big limo hit the plane, twisted the fuselage. It was like,
Oops.
we don't
So, hon, how
yet
was your
have
day?
we don't yet have those problems, but then there comes a day sometimes, at some point where we might. You have to think about
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah, but that's for, each
you go.
individual operator is required to have insurance for that sort of thing, right? That's not something, this is really meant to protect the airport.
Indeed, but then you get into, I'm sure that the aircraft owner's insurance covered that, a not-in-motion accident, and it was all paid for by their insurance, but you
We're
could see
trying
where
to
they.
shield City Hall.
Well, that's the
Right.
thing.
That's
So
what we're trying.
Exactly.
Well, you could
Yeah.
see where there would be a point where that insurance company would turn around and sue the city and say,
Right.
you let Joe Schmo limo driver, where was his badge?
Yeah.
Did you ensure that he had training? Did you know he had all these traffic tickets? Or DUIs? And then it's like, what are you exposing yourself to? So,
When you talk about like a banner tower though, all right, so what's the liability to the airport that's different from a normal operator? Other than the banner could come off and land on a building and have some damage, so there could be additional.
sure. I think,
Beyond what the normal insurance that he's already required
Yeah.
to have based on his business and use of the aircraft.
I don't think, that's the thing, I don't think there are requirements for insurance for a business of that character. There's certainly no requirement to have insurance at all operating something like that. And I think it comes down to kinetics, right? There are some airplanes, given their seat capacity and their mass, that if they're involved in an accident, are going to cause damage, physical damage to the airport and loss of life, which will generate a huge amount of legal activity for decades. There are other operations where they are essentially, the vehicle's inexpensive, it's a relatively low-risk activity, there's only one occupant who is the owner-operator. It's a low-mass vehicle and a low-value vehicle. I don't think you can equate the two. I think, otherwise you just drive that activity into extinction. And I kind of like, it's a live and let live type thing. We can revisit that. I really don't think there'll be that many exceptions. And, you know, to be honest, $1 million insurance is pretty low these days. Like $1 million's not, when I was a kid, $1 million. $1 million. $1 million now is like the least you'd ever get for hull value on liability on a Cirrus, right?
Yeah.
So most people operating 6-seat airplanes have $3 to $5 million policies.
Yeah.
Routinely.
Yeah. All right, I really like to move
You
on
wanna-
from minimum standards unless somebody has something they want to.
I got your comments. Anything else, just chuck them to.
Just like a plural here, and it's like knit stuff, I can email that.
We can fix that once it's had public comment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, very, nice job though. This
Thank
is-
you. Peter, any thoughts?
No, I've just got one comment.
Yes.
I don't believe that the FAA or MassDOT will approve the minimum standards. It's up to the city.
No, but
and
they would review.
They review it.
They can look at it.
Yes.
But they won't approve it.
No, I know.
Yeah, they don't actually, they're not actually in that business.
No.
They go,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Right,
I got that advisory
Right.
circular here.
yeah. Okay,
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Paul, thank you.
Progress.
Commissioner, fellow commissioners, it's been years. Item F, Rocking Horse Enterprise, Phase 1. Now we're going back to Phase 1.
yes. Just an update for you. 29 of the 30 have been allocated. People have shown intent. They're waiting to pay their deposits. Bob hasn't come up with a date yet for the deposit. I've given him the agreement between the airport and him. He's passed it to his attorney. He had 2 comments that he was going to put in writing, which I haven't received yet. So once that's done and that's completely done, then he'll get the go-ahead to commence on May the 1st. That's the groundbreaking. Okay? So they're just waiting for one.
That's the final agreement between the airport and...
It's the agreement.
It's
Yeah.
the lease,
That's
land
the
lease
lease.
agreement.
Yeah, the land lease agreement.
Does the commission see that?
Oh, yeah, Richard's got to sign it.
Yeah, can we see
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
I haven't seen it.
You don't want to change anything on it, do you?
I haven't seen it. It's sort of like the most important thing that's going on at the airport in 25 years, and I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
So I'd like to see it.
yeah.
And we're waiting for one more person?
So I would assume Matt from our solicitor's office will look at this or
100%.
either approve or disapprove these changes.
Yes. They were the ones that gave it to us. It's come from Mead, not me. It's Lisa Mead. Mead, Tollerman, and whoever.
But it was based on the lease that we had
It was
produced.
based on the lease that was originally done for the Eric Sheffels group of people. Taking all of those things into consideration that you were involved with, I
Yeah.
was involved with,
Yeah,
Vinnie was involved with.
yeah,
So it's got a good pedigree, let's put it like that.
yeah, it does. A lot of work put into it.
Absolutely right. All those Saturday meetings, do you remember?
I do.
Yeah.
I was younger then. Item G, after-hours bathroom facility. All
Well, I
right,
prepared a short presentation. Yeah.
we need $2,400 if the city is going to fund that entirely. Or if we're going to go into thirds. I know that Peter had approached a porta potty company, and they were not amicable to billing in thirds to 3 different parties.
There's a million ways to fix that.
Yeah, so, first of all, we don't have the $2,400. When are you going to city with the budget?
26th?
Of this month?
Yeah,
Oh.
next week.
I think that it's time for a motion to either pay for the bathrooms, half the bathrooms, or a third of these porta potties, or none at all.
So, I mean, it's by coincidence, in terms of rough numbers, if the city paid for half and FPA paid for half, it's sort of equal to the amount that was under discussion with our 3 carrots, right? I don't think we need to solve it now, but it's an equal amount of money. Obviously, you have constituents you represent. You can't unilaterally make that decision. But
It's FACT as well.
FACT had also voted that they would support it.
And the board would
The board had said, yeah, let's do it.
When we said it's going to be approximately this much, to split it 3 ways.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be any major rebellion if we change those numbers around.
Make a motion that the airport contracts to provide an after-hours porta potty somewhere in the vicinity of the self-service fuel farm for transient and base pilots, with the cost being split 3 ways, however that mechanism is arranged, between FPA, FACT, and the airport, subject to approval by the FPA members and FACT members.
How about, and not to exceed $1,200 from each party per year?
Oh, I think you could get the deluxe version for $3,600 a year. My goodness. I mean,
If I'm going to
I
use
think,
it,
Mark,
that'd be deluxe.
this is the one with the gold taps you wanted. That's cleaned hourly. No, I think that for something that was cleaned weekly, service weekly, it was like 180.
It's about 140, 120,
140.
140.
Yeah, so it's.
So what
it's
is
just saying a max of
1,400?
of that,
Yeah, so not to, yeah, exactly, with a not to exceed of $1,000 per party. I think
So that one
would-
comes with a bidet.
So I'm just going to say, I don't like to get into the habit of managing the airport when we have an airport manager,
Understand.
okay? But I think it's time to request the airport manager to allow for $1,200 or less in the budget for a porta potty moving forward.
And is there a precedent for receiving fees from each of these parties that exists, that you could roll it into something that's like a monthly?
I really don't know how that can work.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if there is anything that's like,
The city doesn't have any difficulty billing for sending thousands of bills out a month. I've got to believe there's a way to make it work, but that's not for me to speak to.
Or if the arrangement with the facility provider is that they bill 1 month to FACT, 1 month to FPA, 1 month to the city. I mean, there's a million ways you can do it.
probably won't do that.
You know, if we were going to spend
I'd
like
be happy-
$100,000
Lucky
a
there's
year with
12
them,
months in a year.
I'd be happy to take over the mechanics of that. So
Yeah.
I'd work it out,
Yeah.
so to everyone's satisfaction that, even working with the city, however it gets paid for. I just don't think it's unsurmountable. I think they'd be happy to take the money.
So there is a motion.
There's a
on
motion
the floor.
to provide a bathroom cost split 3 ways, subject to approval, and you would come back with Mark next meeting with approval.
FACT and for the amount of money we're talking about now, it's approved with FPA.
Is approved already, all right, so not to exceed $1,200 per party, but with the intent that it'll be substantially less than that.
Yeah.
I would second that.
So I know that, Peter's going to the budget committee on the 26th. So this is good we did this now, because going back to them
To the wire.
after that, you're going to have to wait a year.
The other mechanism, not to complicate matters, but would be a 1 cent per fuel, 1 cent per gallon tax until the bathroom is paid for each year. I mean, look at the amount of fuel we're selling, $40,000, right? So you just tack on a porta potty surcharge of 1 cent per gallon until such time as it's funded for the year.
Yeah, it's way over my head.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Well, that is actually, but think about it.
That's a
That
good
is,
idea.
It's directly funded by the people that are using the facility.
Right.
So the fuel is a direct use tax, and this is the way aviation use taxes work. It's a rounding error. I mean, the price of fuel fluctuates so much, nobody would notice. But, you sell a couple of 100 gallons a day, you've got a couple of bucks for your porta potty. It's,
I think it should be related to a tax on coffee. More coffee.
better.
And you're going to get outside aviators to help pitch in
Should be the
All right,
same.
we
for
got,
that.
we're going to move on here.
Or-
That's a viable,
I'm going to second that motion. The 3-way split,
All right.
not to exceed 12. Peter, we're requesting you put it in the budget.
I will try and put it in the budget. I can't guarantee that the city will accept it, but I will put it in and see what they say.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, how's it going to be paid? There's nothing in
Yeah.
our system that we can pay that. unless there's already porta potties out in any of the parks that they pay for. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it's new, it could take time to implement. I'll do my best. All right?
I get it,
I will do my best.
yeah.
I think emphasize the fact that the city's only paying for a third of what is an essential service, since the airport is required to provide facilities for after-hours operations. Arguably, but
I know there was different fees for winter and summer use, so,
Yeah, there is. For the salt.
okay.
so that was seconded by 2 people.
Yes, we need to vote. Good.
Aye.
Excellent, thank you.
I feel relief, so
Fine.
to speak.
Financial review, approval of commitments and abatements. Peter,
None.
really?
None this month, no.
I'm glad. Executive session is a yes. However, we needed our lawyer with us tonight, and he's not here, so,
Can I talk?
oh, yes.
Okay, I sent an email at 5 o'clock today, just checking you are good for the commission meeting tonight. Remote, thanks, Peter. Oh, sorry, 7 o'clock this morning. Good morning, Matt. Got ahead of myself. Peter, I'm going to need to attend the other proceeding. I'm sorry I couldn't work it out. I wrote you a message, but will make myself available at the commission's convenience next week. Thanks, sir. We'll advise the meeting this evening. Completely understand. Thank you. And he said thank you. So it's going to be a special airport meeting, commission meeting, but executive session only. So we open the meeting and then we close it and go into executive session.
Are there any days next week where you are not available or are available?
And do we need this facility, or will it just all be remote?
We could do it at the airport.
I have
Okay.
planning board on Thursday night and select board on Monday night, so it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday for me.
Well, it's executive session. Let's do it Wednesday night at the airport, 6 o'clock.
Works for me.
Rich,
I'll bring the beers.
6 o'clock at the airport, Wednesday night.
The 26th?
I don't know that. Are you telling me or asking?
I'm just confirming. I'm pretty sure that is
Yeah,
next.
26.
It's the 19th
26.
tonight, so it's got to be
26.
26.
26th, I'm just getting it on the record.
Yeah, but it is February.
Yeah,
You got it.
airport.
Yep. Either a B square.
So there is not an executive session this evening.
Is Dan listening?
This other document here, number 3, is that
Oh,
the
Yeah, the
site
West-
plan review document?
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. That's for the executive session, so.
Roger?
oh, okay.
Yeah, can I have those back, and I'll bring those all for next Wednesday, okay?
Peter, don't you have
Please.
a meeting at City Hall on the 26th? Or is that the 25th?
No, that's in the morning.
Oh, that's in the morning.
Okay,
I just need those 2 documents back.
date and time of next regular meeting is March 19th, 6 o'clock at this building. And I just kind of need a roll call to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Can I have that,
I second that.
that one? Is that it?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.
And Rich, I need
8
the meeting.
o'clock. Jackie, thank you for hanging on.
Good night, everyone.
Jackie,
Good night.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
Bye, Jackie.
Okay, so Wednesday.